Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Masters of Self University podcast. I'm your host, Ellie Lee.
And I'm your host, Morley.
And today we are joined with mystical coach of oneness, Emily Armstrong. Yay!
Yay! Hi. Hello there. It's great to be here again.
It's good to have you, Em. So today's topic is going to be fascinating. I'm going to really be a student in this episode, but I'd love to start this entire conversation off with something that happened between Emily and I. And so, long story short, Emily and I were just in a session together, and the way that our Zoom camera is like you get a lot of like what the room is. And while I was, I think I was guiding you, basically she was like, well, I can't look at that yin yang pillow, right? And that was like the first time I had ever heard anything about the symbol of yin yang, right? That it was not what I thought it had been. And so I was like, okay, that's fine. So I could move the camera, and then we ended up doing our session. And then beautifully, you sent me a message, and you basically told me that, the yin yang symbol is not what I think that it is, and that energetically it's actually a very low vibration, and it represents duality and all these things. And this is a program that I run, that I'm working on every day. Is I don't take a lot of things that are esoteric very seriously. This is because the ethereal, because of spirituality, everything is still fairly new to me because I've been so indoctrinated with like religion and all of these things. So I still run a program where I don't really take a lot of that stuff like uber seriously. And so you had told me that message, and I was like, oh, it's fine. And I said back to you, I was like, I have the yin yang even tattooed on me. And I was like, it just for me, feels like my childhood. Like I'm a late kid of the late 80s, and like growing up in the US, like all we had was like peace signs and yin yangs and smiley faces. So it's really nostalgic for me. And that's why I got the yin yang tattooed on me. And you didn't respond, and you took your time. And then like probably a month or whatever later, you're like, hey, Ellie, like, I'm sorry I didn't respond. But like when you told me it got tattooed on, you had tattooed on you, like I immediately got messages from your soul. And so one of Emily's beautiful gifts is that she can communicate with people's souls. And the message that came through from my soul was basically that I needed to get rid of this, that this is, and I would love for you to go deeper into it, Em, because obviously you're the one who really understood it. And then when she told me that, immediately I was like, oh, okay. So I went yesterday for a tattoo removal consultation, which is super expensive. But for me, it was a wake-up call to take it seriously and heal this program that doesn't allow me to listen to the messages that are coming through. And I started to really understand like deeper of what tattoos do to us and the imprint that it makes on us, and that each of these tattoos and the symbols and everything all have energetic frequencies. And if we're putting that into our body, how is that affecting us? And so this has been a huge, huge wake-up call for me. So I'd love for you to start there.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. It's been a bit of a long journey with that one, right? Because it's not just started from my perspective with you. I've been getting messages for quite a long time now from people where I'm in their presence. I might even not know them that well. I've obviously known you for some time, but some people I don't know that well. And suddenly there's a message either coming out of my mouth that feels like it's come through my pineal gland. It's bypassed my brain and it's coming out of my mouth. And then after some of my programs run, like, oh God, that just happened. And I just said that thing and that wasn't me. What is this? And so it's been a very long road of figuring out what's going on, first of all, for myself, dealing with the kind of ricochet that then ensues, because some people are very open and some people are very not, and some people are sort of in between, and being able to come to peace a little bit with some of this gift and what it is. So it's one of the forms that it shows up is being able to speak some of the truths, that the messages that are not getting through to that person. quite plainly. They're usually quite practical things, or they get right to the root of the particular thing that no one's saying in the room, for example. That's happened several times. And so I've been navigating this for some time. So I knew by the time I actually reached out to you a month after that kind of symbol scenario in the session, that I got a better handle on it, and you know, discernment is so key with our gifts, especially when they're coming online, is to spend a bit of time getting used to discerning what's truth and what might be bits of your mind adding things, or interpretations that might not be fully from source and or their soul or your own soul. I obviously get messages from my own too. And I felt I had another nudge. It was a nudge when I was getting ready in the morning. You know, oftentimes when you've got like, you're somewhat engaged in something, but it doesn't require, it's like a mundane task, or it's something you do all the time, like washing up or having a shower or something. Things drop in, and it was, you need to speak to Ellie about this. And I was like, oh, I need to speak to Ellie about this. I knew that was coming. I knew it. Because of course, you know, with you talking to the fact it's tattooed onto your body, that's another level, right? It's a big decision to have it in the first place. It's a big decision, you know, to decide what to do next, whether you keep it, have it removed, written over, whatever. So I knew what that would mean, you know, having that further conversation about it. But I've learned that it is better to share the information in as kind a way as possible, in a way, you know, and when it comes to you, you're very straight talking. You like to just hear it as it is, you know, you made it easy, Ellie. But of course, you know, I'm always mindful, because some of these messages, it's almost like there's an urgency behind them energetically. Like this is something that's super important right now, and therefore it's coming out, even though it might perhaps catch their person off guard. I remember sharing with someone in a session once who had asked for feedback, but not, you know, about something so deep. And it literally came out of my mouth that person needed to deal with quite a lot of grief, when actually it didn't really work for what she does for a living, right? To have that information shared with her. And so it's those kinds of things that keep happening that I actually feel now more comfortable sharing, and then just sitting with the consequences. Because as we know with this work, a lot of the times, if you've got the kind of subconscious get-go from the soul or that person's subconscious, then it's permission enough to be able to take it forward with them. And I still feel in my integrity sharing that kind of thing. So that's been a whole journey, and actually sharing it with you, and then you sort of taking the steps you have to start looking into it, you know, start discerning for yourself, and then deciding actually this probably is something that I am choosing to remove, you know, regardless of the information. It's always what do I feel into about that information? What does it resonate with me? Is it something that, you know, I know there's some truth to? And that's so important. It doesn't matter what messages are shared with you. And you know, there are a lot of people out there sharing a lot of messages, and I don't channel things. I'm not a channeler at all. I don't let things into my body to speak through me. It is just that data seems to come through and information comes through. And it's very much me, but the information's coming from somewhere else, and it's just sort of implanted in any part of me, whether it's my voice that needs to speak or my mind that needs to comprehend something. So that discernment piece is really key. The symbolism is part of a running theme of kind of energetic education my soul's been walking me through over the last year. And symbolism takes so very many different forms. It's not just in imagery and literally symbols themselves, like the yin yang symbol, which so many people, as yourself, you know, identify as something peaceful and something that denotes balance, right? But many of these symbols, and they can also be in word form as well, right? There's symbology, there's geometries in words too, because they're all tones, they're all sounds. It doesn't just have to be imagery. That have an energetic frequency, and a set of vibrations that are emitted through the shape that they are, the structure, the intention in which they were actually planted here. So who created them, the energy in creating them, the reason why they're here, the hidden meanings in some of these things too, in particular words as well. There's many hidden meanings in words, in the English language, that is. And there will be, no doubt, in other languages that I don't speak. So there is a lot encoded in these vibrationally that our mind may associate with something because of the associations we have, the things it's been tagged to, like the peace symbol, etc. But what we're here for is to start discerning the difference, is actually starting tuning in energetically to what's in front of us, to the words that are being spoken to us, the things that are made every day. And that, I think, is something we all need to step up to the plate with, and all have the power and gift to be able to start discerning, is how does this actually feel versus what I've been told, or what I've grown up with, or what this has been associated with. It's a bit like words and the half-truths, right? If there is some part of it that is not true, that's put into something that is true, it doesn't make it true. It actually, slightly warps the truth. And it could be very similar. The yin-yang symbol, for example, energetically is actually about separation, as I know you said, and I shared with you. It looks like it's about being whole, and it's like it's the feminine and the masculine, the yin and the yang, coming together and making a whole. But in actual fact, it denotes the separation between the two, and the fact there's a permanent divide there. And that's the energy of that symbol, put simply. It is that there's division. So when we look at that, even though we're looking at what looks like wholeness, it's separation in disguise. And there is a lot of instances where that's the case. Certain words that are put in that have subliminal messages to them, things that our subconscious picks up that we would never recognize, with our mind alone. So it's been a long journey, but I am fascinated by symbology, by the energy of certain images, and it's part of us, I think, learning as a collective to discern energy in this way. It's sensing vibrations from everything around us, including the symbology around us too.
Beautiful intro. Thanks for that, Emily. And I feel like we can't have this conversation about symbols without talking about the most probably well-known symbol in the world, which is the cross. Like that, everybody knows that symbol. And it was just the other day I was on a call with somebody, and in their background was a cross with a man hanging from it, being, of course, Jesus. Mm-hmm. And growing up, I didn't really vibe with religion. I was around it a lot growing up, but it never really made sense to me or drew me in. I got a little curious, but I didn't really spend a lot of time like deeply thinking about the cross and all that kind of stuff. And, the whole like Jesus being hung and all this kind of stuff. And then, go back in this podcast and listen to the teachings that Rachel has given. And I'm sure you can go a little deeper into this, Emily, about the symbology of that. But what Rachel has, educated me on is that it's the severing of that connection to source. And you go around it, like, I see that thing everywhere. I see so many people wearing it on their neck. I see so many people with it tattooed on them. I'm seeing this a lot at the moment, especially like I'll go to the gym, just crosses everywhere, like tattooed crosses everywhere. And everybody thinks they know what this symbol means. And in reality, nobody does. I had no idea. And now when I see that symbol, and I was watching this video, or I was on a video call with somebody and I saw it in the background. Oh, my heart started filling up with like some deep sorrow of like, oh my God, we have been so duped and so tricked and so fooled that we go around wearing all these symbols, and this symbol in particular, having we're being given what we think it means, but we don't use our mind or discernment. We don't use any of our intellect to actually go, and this goes to like what you were saying, like, what is the energy of this symbol? Well, it's a man dead on a cross. Why do I want that hanging in my house? That literally symbolizes death and sacrificing people. He was an enlightened being. Why do we want to have him on the wall hanging like a... Oh, it's so gross now. Now I've realized what it is. I'm like, oh my God. And then that's obviously the most popular one. How many other symbols are there like that, like the yin and the yang, like the whatever, that we don't even know about?
Yeah. So, and you know, yes. So the cross one's a loaded one, right? There's so much attached to the crucifixion cross, right? There is much, and it's multi-layered. And you know, I tend to keep things simple when it comes to Christianity and Catholicism. And for me, straightforwardly with that symbol, it has been adapted from the Celtic cross, which in and of itself, the true Celtic cross is equal crosses, and it has inside of the cross edges a circular angle. So the shape itself, it almost represents a circle. That is still a pure symbol from what I can feel, right? That's actually a very powerful symbol. It has nothing to do with religion. It's just a shape. So obviously then there are certain shapes that are adopted by certain peoples and certain people with certain beliefs and whatnot. So there's that side of things that's happened over the many, many years, but they originally were a shape and have never been owned. However, the cross is something that has been used time and time again to mock the person that was Jesus or Jeshua. If you do a bit more digging, you actually find out his real name. And that is used as a form of mockery of that particular being on the constant, right? Centerpiece, right? That person hanging from a cross in agony. And you know, there's many layers to that symbol, but actually, yes, you're completely right. In tattooing that cross to ourselves, in hanging it on our walls, in having it next to our bed in the form of the front page of a Bible, so we're sleeping next to it every night, so it's in our bio field every single night. Those kinds of things have been very carefully orchestrated so that we will have and hold symbology within our immediate fields, and it will start to emit what's intended, of which is multi-layered and probably far more than I can ever get into unless I study symbology for the rest of my life. There is so much to it. It's such a rich topic. But yes, straightforwardly, it's steering clear of those that have been associated with religion, and starting to discern, if I hold this in my hand, if I didn't even know the shape it was, if I got someone to put a well-known symbol in my hand and start to receive it in my left hand and feel what it feels like, I can start to discern if I'm energetically sensitive, and not everyone is. It takes some work sometimes, but anyone that's a HSP will have a head start, right? You know, you are more attuned to the sensory capabilities that allow you to feel into that kind of symbol, right? And sometimes even doing some meditation on certain symbols, that's partly how I was able to discern that the Celtic cross was something that still had a lot of purity attached to it. Having said that, something like that, you know, there's another layer to this, which is their symbols can pick up energy too. So if they have a really powerful, pure, innocent resonance, let's say, they also need to be cleared, because they can pick up dense energies as part of their protection abilities, as part of their ability to. So being able to discern when certain symbols don't feel good because they are loaded with dense energies is a whole other layer. So it's not as easy as just going, this is a good one, this is a bad one, this is good for this reason, this is not. It's actually just spending time with some of these symbols, and certainly being entirely discerning about whether or not you're going to put it on your body, and or your, it's pendants, right, as well. Obviously they're not as permanent, but it's wearing them around your neck every day. It's, having them hanging in your bedroom, in your, the places you're living every day. Certainly a lot of care and attention, which we haven't, that's just not something that's part of our upbringing, is to actually think about the things we bring into our home. Every single thing that comes into our home, because we have a lot of frequency paintings, a lot of shapes that help support the harmony of the home. We've invested in several different things that have helped to support the energy. We have to sit with those things for some time before we're happy to have them be part of our home, and I would encourage everyone to spend some time with, what if we're working so hard on our healing and clearing our energies internally, and we're not helping ourselves by having unsupportive energies around us at all times, in some cases, if it's in your home, or if it's a tattoo, or you're wearing it as a jewelry, then you're not helping yourself, right? It's as simple as that. And we want as many things supporting our journey and our healing and our growth as possible. So the cross is very multi-layered, and there's so very much to the Jeshua story and what's been done with that. But there are absolutely other types of symbols we don't even think about, logos. There are some logos, but with some very big businesses that carry energetics that are not life-giving, that are not life affirmative. And it gets complicated, right? So you have to discern, where you're investing your time, where you're investing your money. There are certain, I'm going to take it to a really simple thing. I have lots of systems in my work that I work with to automate things. And my soul has often said, don't use that system. That system is not good because it's created by people, and the logo is usually the lead, that are not here for good things, right? They're not supportive. So they may have developed the best thing that's going to support your automation, but actually don't invest your money in that. And I've been drawn to the symbolism as a one way of being able to discern that, like verify that if I'm getting that hit. Obviously I've spent time with this, so I can get really deep with it. I can go that far into like, what system am I going to get? And is it going to be associated with something that's ultimately tied to BlackRock or something like that? But yeah, there's no end to the possibilities when you start tuning in this way, to being able to discern so much wider, to bring in energies and frequencies that are actually quite supportive of your life, and they're very life-giving, life affirmative. I just find that very exciting, actually, that we could be in a position where we're bringing in harmonious energies. And even if we want to, if we love tattoos, tattooing those on our bodies, because there are definitely shapes and images that are beneficial. So I find it really fascinating, and I think it could be something that we could be quite empowered in, actually.
Man, the ignorance that we have on everything and anything, how would we ever know that if we didn't have someone like you, teaching us things like that? And, I brought this up to Rachel about my yin yang tattoo, and she said what you just said about this symbol doesn't allow me to harmonize. It's like, it goes against that. And I was like, oh my God. And that's when I was like, I got to do a consultation as soon as possible. And you talk about even sleeping next to the Bible, which has a cross, and that's in your field. Can you go into a little bit deeper into that for people who can't truly conceptualize what that really means? Can you go deeper into that, how that disrupts us?
Yeah. So, I mean, our biofield is very sensitive. If you, for instance, to bring it back to an example more people might resonate with, if you have a miserable person that comes into your energy field, you feel that misery immediately. If someone's depressed, if someone's just in agony, if they're, going through something and it's very overt, you pick up on that energy. I mean, if you're remotely aware, right, you pick up on that energy immediately. And you might actually feel it's a bit of yours, and or it's triggering some of yours, but you certainly know there's not a good vibe going on here. It's like the miserable person in the room when you're in a meeting, or if you're in a friendship group and you're out socializing and you're like, yeah, there's a definite vibe coming over here. It's that kind of thing. That person's brought an energy or several energies into your field, and it's impacting, it's affecting how you feel. It's affecting your thought processes, because there's certain thoughts that start creeping in, like, actually, is this mine? Maybe, yeah, I've got a few crap things going on in my life, and the feeling, obviously, if there's misery or sorrow or something that, if there's some self-hate and that's coming through and they're bringing that into your field, there is that feeling that might get transferred. It also might trigger some of that in you, so it starts to stir up that energy. And behaviorally, we all go into our programs as well. We might start to avoid that person, like want to block them out, move away from them. It might be that we're over coddling them, making sure we're caretaking them, because that might be our programs. So that's a very real example that I think everyone can probably resonate with, as to how our field can be impacted by an external person in this case. It's the same with symbology. If there is an energy signature that's associated with that symbol, or indeed that stream of words, if there's a narrative being spun, right, that also contains energies, then that impacts us, because we're receiving everything from our universe here, right? Our entire, field is picking up on information around us and is interpreting that. And none of us have been taught, outside of MSU, that is, how to discern energies. So oftentimes we just adopt those as our own, absorb them, don't know the difference. It's very similar with symbols. You're bringing them into your environment, and just how that, they can support harmony. They can also be disharmonious as well. So that example of the cross on the Bible, or any other symbology that might be on your bedside table when you're asleep every night. We spend a lot of hours asleep, if you're sleeping well, of course. And apologies if someone is not, and that's triggering, because I know what insomnia is like. But if you are sleeping, you're sleeping a lot. It's about a third of our life, and we're sleeping with those energies in our field, having an impact. There is a programming that goes on with putting certain things in our energy field. And it's the same with, anything that, like plant medicines, right? If you've got those in your system, they're going to have an impact. If you've brought crystals into your home and they have a certain frequency and energy, that's going to have an impact and a bearing on your biofield, hopefully a good one, right? It's exactly the same as symbology. There's no different just because it's kind of a 2D image, for example. That everything has a vibrational signature, everything. And not everything's all bad and not everything's all good, but it's learning that discernment as to what does it feel like to me, spending time with that, and making decisions about whether or not it actually feels like it's supportive or non-supportive.
There's a part of me that, wants you to go through and be like, okay, so tell me, what are all the bad ones? What are all the good ones, right? Like, I'm so interested to know. But then that's the same thing, right? Then it's, well, now I'm just externalizing all of my power to somebody else. And obviously there's there's balance to that, because when you aren't aware, you do need somebody to start to bring some education and guide you in the right direction. But until we all start to have that inner discernment as well, then then we're just trusting what somebody else says, which is what led us into this place in the first place, right? We're here right now with all these symbols in our reality, not knowing what they are, because we're just looking at somebody else to give us the answer. Which is obviously, you can look at that as a child, you can look at that as somebody who's been brainwashed. I would say both are true, on a mental, emotional level. humanity is obviously kept very immature, and then there is a bunch of collective, conditioning and brainwashing, which causes us to not look within ourselves. I mean, you can just look within the education system in the West, especially in the United States. And we were having this conversation yesterday with Rachel about how there's a severe lack of critical thinking that's developed in children. And this is, part of it is developing the ability to go within yourself and actually discern on your own. Well, what does this feel like? What does this mean? So yeah, I think it's so beautiful that you didn't come on here and just be like, look at all these symbols, this is what they all mean. And it's kind of like, well, here's an open door for you to go explore and feel into, the different vibrations of these symbols.
Absolutely. And this is what we're about. It's empowerment. We're not here to be the alternative leader in regards to the narrative, what's right, what's not right. That's absolutely up to you as a powerful soul to discern. And if you don't feel confident in it right now, going to the likes of MSU or other places that are supportive of your education and spiritual level in energetics to be able to start mastering this, because as we well know, energy is most of what's real. We're less than 1% physical matter. And when you start looking at that kind of figure, you're like, well, there's a lot of things we probably need to learn and be aware of. And I see that more as an exciting thing, all that potential for learning and growth and seeing more of what's there, what's currently invisible, but actually is very tangible if we start working with it. And yes, I wouldn't want to be someone that's prescriptive and says this is right and that's wrong and whatever else, because that's, for everyone to discern. But there are some really, I think, interesting symbols and certain energies that over time you can utilize in different ways, right? It doesn't mean that they're good or bad. It's just that they might have a particular frequency that's beneficial to you at a particular time or for a particular healing. I think about something recently when I went to France with my family, and we'd done some energy work in a place that was there to try and write some of the energies that were pretty horrific, I have to say, in a particular place where a recent event went on in Paris. So we were guided to certain places where we were to pick up different energies. And one of them was in physical form, which is a crystal, which was completely random place. It was in this fitness center with this big event that was ticketed, and they just let us in. We were like, okay. And then we were guided to this, everyone's doing press ups and God knows yoga stuff and all around us. And there's just this one stall in the back that's this crystal stall. This woman, we're like, why are you even here? She's like, I don't know.
Brilliant.
There's my crystal. So you can have things in energetic form, in physical form, that give you energies that are supportive for that particular thing you need to do, and they have a particular vibration that will help with that particular thing, whatever it is, if it's a healing or something you're doing, or energetic balancing, or just you need some extra protections, or you need a bit more clarity, or there's whatever. It's the discernment is key, and the symbolism is key, and being able to utilize those energies is also something that's really important over time. But also not being afraid to engage with certain symbols, to continue to use the words that are not great and don't have a lot of wholesomeness to them, and also just to be curious. I'm going to give you an example of a word, actually, because I've talked about words quite a bit, and there's some really sort of simple ones as well. One being, had an experience where I was talking about words and the power of words with my partner, and he was like, I've just done a bit of work and my inner child's just told me not to call myself a kid. And he's like, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know what is that about? And we sort of came up with a couple of things, did some we do some muscle testing sometimes to just help get some answers, and discovered that actually kid has been used as a way to lessen a child, right? So kid is actually like a baby goat. It is which is also very cute and very gorgeous and lovely, but they're very different from a child. And so child's been morphed into the word we now all use globally, and all big brands use it as well. And it's a very subtle message that a child is less than a human, right? Is actually in a different grade, if you like, right? Which is a very interesting thing to sit with. It doesn't mean that's 100% right, but it's starting to explore actually what's the meaning behind certain words we're using every day, labels we're giving people or animals themselves, or, you know, they're or objects or whatever, you know, we might be coming in contact with, to start questioning, where are these words coming from? What's the meaning behind them? What does it feel like, right? And what's the purpose? And that one is a really interesting one. Equally, something related to kind of children in the sense of like childbirth is contraction, right? There is contractions you have when you're giving birth, and actually it's the opposite to what you should be doing, which is relaxing, allowing like the body to do what it's meant to do. If you're saying, I'm counting my contractions, and you're saying that to yourself, you're starting to put into your mind that you need to contract, you need to and which makes it more painful. Like it elongates the whole process. It puts you in a position where you're retracting and not like expelling the baby and allowing it to naturally come out. And so, I mean, there's just a couple of really small examples. And it's part of why I see now as always drawn to hypnobirthing, which is like, they call them surges, which is actually more representative of what they are. But there are lots of encoded things and meanings in certain words, and why they were selected, and who in an earth even selected our language and how it would sound, and what would be made up, you know, what words would be made up of. So I find that all very fascinating as well. And they all sort of have different tones to them, and that also dictates some of the energy as well. It's just, it can go really far and wide, and yeah, I could probably talk about it for hours and in great depth, but it just gives you a flavour for the sorts of things to kind of start looking out for and noticing and questioning. You know, we just take that for granted. That sort of there's certain words we would use all the time. Actually, what are we really saying? Because we're speaking from our mouths. That is a vibration that comes out into the world, right? It comes out into the world, and we're expressing that. And sometimes all of the time, right? It's sort of common words too. So yeah, that's a whole other side too, the word symbology and the vibrations that we're sharing with each other that way.
Fascinating. There's one word, and I don't know if this falls, and it's not quite the same category, that I always think about, and that's the word coincidence. And when you look at what it means when two things join together perfectly. But the way that we use it is, oh, it's such a coincidence. It was chance. And it's actually, the meaning of the word is the opposite of chance. It's a perfect union. Two things coincide. It means they were always meant to join. But the way that we use that word is, oh, it was a coincidence. Oh, what a lovely coincidence. What a random chance that we would happen to be in this place at the same time, when really, like, and I feel like that's the way that we give away we're dismissing the perfection of the universe and like divine timing and the way that things do happen so perfectly sometimes when we're on the right path, when we're in alignment, right? And we give all of that away to, it was just a coincidence. That's one thing that I hear people say, and I catch myself before ever I use that word, because and I know there's so many other words that are like that, where we flip-flopped the meaning. And I always question myself, like, why is that? Was that done purposefully? Is it because we literally live in the upside down world and we're so backwards that we don't realize what we're doing? Or or is that influence from somewhere else that's, you know, trying to make us like that?
It's so interesting. I don't know the answer, and I can only guess that our language is formed over so many hundreds of thousands of years, right? That I like to think of it as, yes, probably that has happened, that it's been purposely infiltrated, but it's also in balance. So I see a lot of words that are very, what I would consider beneficial, and they have hidden meanings in them that are joyful, and on the other end of the scale, right, as well. So I feel as if the language itself, it's about that discernment piece to see, you know, what yes, there might be a bit of a hyper focus on the things I don't want to say but there's lots of words out there that actually have encoded in them like hidden meanings that, you know, are a bit humorous, or they mean something that you can feel a particular message in them, right? And a message also carries its own frequency. I've always found like beautiful a really interesting word, because it is like that be you to full, right? Be you to the full. I always find like whenever someone's saying beautiful, it's that, and the opposite might be when you hear like bless you, right? Which is be less you, right? Which is used widely. You know, there's two ways to look at it, and I like the balance of being able to explore it and not be all the bad and all the, you know, because it's not the truth of it. There is a balance in all things, and just getting curious with our words, I think, is the main message. You know, feeling into and being discerning with what language I use and what words I use often. I think is something to be mindful of if you're interested in that, right?
Yeah, I heard one the other day, or I saw it on social media, of morning. Everyone says good morning, and
Oh yes,
morning obviously we're meaning about the break of day, and that's what we use it. But morning meaning like, you know, when you mourn the death, like something's, you know, died, and we wake up and the first thing we do is say death to each other. Like, that is very strange. Like, yes, it's a different spelling in the English language, but the sound is exactly the same. Morning and morning. It's the same word. Oh, but it's spelt differently. Oh, okay. Oh, all right then. Well, it's spelt differently. It's a different word. Yeah, but the vibration is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that comes into like intention. But Al?
So where's the line between the vibrational frequency of the word and then the intention behind the word? So if I you know, show up in the morning, I'm like good morning, and it's like the morning is like, it's so lovely to see you, we're gonna have a great day, like what an awesome sunny morning. Can you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, my sense is that it's the intention's important. If you use a word and it's got positivity baked in it, that is part of the vibration of your voice as you're speaking it. I still think there's other vibrations in the mix, right? It's the totality of all the vibrations. So if there is an association with morning mix in the mix, then I think that just gets added to the pot, right? It's part of that. It's the same as kind of the weekend, right? The weekend. You've got kind of, there's certain things I think we say that are very normalized, and we would say commonly, like good morning, have a great weekend, right? Things like that there is absolutely an energy that's poured into that because of the other meaning to it. But do I think it makes that whole, you know, it overwrites that good intention? Probably not. But it's just for us to be conscious of, you know. I know a lot of people have started saying happy rising. And I'm like, I can't quite get into the swing of that. I'm still just working on not saying bless you every time someone sneezes, because that was encoded. So it's now Gesundheit, which is good health, which I think is much better.
Oh, nice.
Thank you, Germany, for something good there. That's helping me move to words and meanings and intention that I want to express every time someone sneezes. But yeah, it's using it lightly, but being more conscious of those things we speak every day, and actually, you know, some of the hidden meanings in there. It's just like the logos and other symbols. There are hidden meanings in there. And whereas words can have slightly different associations and interpretations, your symbol is also just echoing a frequency through your senses. There's a little less interpretation, unless you're actually spending time interpreting a symbol, and that's part of what you do. But most of the time, people are just taking them in visually.
Yeah.
So it's a little, there's a little less around intention, because we're often not talking about the intention. But yeah, we're often not talking about the intention that we have if we've got something on our rucksack, like, you know, there's a lot of peace symbols that are just like badged onto a rucksack, and we're not really talking about that and the intention behind it. It's more that person's just taking it in visually. So it's not a clean answer, but I think where I'm feeling into it is just that it does have an impact, and there is energies that are added to the pot. But yeah, it's just something to consider, and I guess feel into, like, how much does that affect what I'm saying, the intention I actually am intending to communicate this with.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because when you first sent me the Voxer about, you know, my soul was like, she needs to get rid of it. I wanted to avoid tattoo removal so much, because I know how much pain there is. And so I asked you, I was like, can I just go over it? Can I just change the matrix of it? And I asked Rachel, and she basically was like, it doesn't matter, because underneath whatever you change, it still exists, right? And so even if the intention I had with this tattoo was like nostalgic, doesn't matter. The frequency of the symbol is still imprinted in my body. And so I was like, fine, I'll just go get rid of it. But that's to anyone out there, because I'm sure there's people out there now looking at their own bodies and they're like, oh my God, what have I tattooed on myself? And, you know, how do I get rid of it? It's like, don't go over it, guys. Like, we have to just get rid of the darn thing, because the energetic frequency still exists in the symbol.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, if you were to remove it and then overwrite it with something else, that would probably be okay as well. And I mean, we obviously talked a little bit about the energy of the ink as well. You know, that also has its own vibration. And I think, you know, a lot of people, I can very much appreciate, and I had the same thoughts when I was looking at tattoos, you know, when I was a teen, that actually there's a lot of sacredness to tattoos, right? As like culturally, it goes back a really long way to numerous peoples across the world. But we've changed what tattoos mean, how they're applied, what materials are used, and it has changed culturally, like tattoos and what that, the intention and you know, so there's so much about it that's changed that actually we probably haven't spent time really, you know, considering, because it's not something that we're empowered to really consider or to question, or so yeah, it might, and I want to acknowledge that, you know, it might be triggering for people, because obviously a tattoo is really permanent, and not everyone can also afford to have things removed if they're, you know, if they have a cross tattooed to them. It's not saying that's gonna in some way be really detrimental or anything like that. It's just, it might not be supportive sometimes of the frequency you're trying to achieve, because obviously it's adding a frequency to your field at all times. So it's not drastic, but it's just not supportive of the harmonization, the optimization, you know, you may aspire to longer term. But no one needs to kind of rush out and start erasing things. I know for you, Ellie, it's you know, that's your choice.
Get rid of it, people. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But yes, for me, like once I felt into the truth of what you were telling me, that's just who I am. Like, I'm like, all right, let's just go all the way. And so, but yeah, for everyone else at home, like, don't start freaking out. It's like, it's okay. This is just education on, you know, what we're actually doing when we do it so unconsciously, because no one's teaching us this.
That's it. No one is. And it's about time someone did.
Yeah.
You know, this is the thing. If we want to wake up, we have to wake up to things that are challenging to hear. And Rachel's real good at presenting the punches in the face, as she says, which I love. We need it. We need it. And if we're brave enough to take that and to be able to run with it and start discerning for ourselves, I think, you know, there's no limit. There really isn't. And there's been so many limits before, that just keeping ourselves open-minded and open-hearted to some of this new information that's coming through, these new ways of thinking, this discernment piece, this critical thinking, you know, being able to question and not be perfect, right? You know, have made some mistakes or made decisions that actually we want to change later on. You know, that's part of growing and maturing. That's just part of this life, you know. I think that it's never a message that we should be going into more fear. We really don't need any more of that. That is not supportive. That, more than anything, is not going to support people to the harmony that they're wanting to seek within themselves or wanting to get to reach within themselves. It's just meant to be supportive information, because we need this knowledge. You know, we need more people bringing this back and asking questions. You know, I don't say this pretending to know everything and be right about it all, but actually to encourage other people to start being curious and start having conversations with your soul. Please, for the love of God source, please start speaking with your soul, even if you feel disconnected at this moment in time. MSU obviously teaches you how to self-connect, how to connect with your light, as a good starting place, as a grounding point to be able to start working on self-connection. But just start chatting away in whatever way you can, you know, to start reaching out, because that higher part of us is so wanting to help all of the time, and is helping where that's possible, you know, where we're allowing it, and is showing up a lot and trying to guide us, you know, on the path we're on as an individual soul. We just have to learn to listen more and ask more questions and be more open to that kind of communication. We have all our own answers. We already know, it's already encoded within us to remember, you know, who we are, what we're about, where we've come from, all those big questions that everyone's become, you know, so gripped by. They're already there. We just have to be patient and put in the work to learn how to notice what's already there, how to reconnect with what's already there.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Thank you for that education. Seriously, it's always awesome when you come on, because I know I'm going to learn something. So to anyone out there, you know, if what Emily just said about this is what we teach at MSU, you know, Rachel has this, my favorite quotes from her is like, your greatest teacher in this life is your own soul. It's not anybody outside of you. And you're letting me see how much I don't communicate with my soul. And you're letting me see how much I do need to spend time talking and driving in the car, talking to my soul and things like that. And so thank you for that. To anyone out there, if you are interested in enrolling at Master Self University, our school year starts January 21st, 2025. So attend a free student enrollment meeting. You can look at the description below. Follow Emily, Danny, and all of our coaches on social media. And please share this podcast to anyone that you think it would help. And until next time, we'll see you guys then.
Bye.
Bye.